Hello guys, I'm Grandmaster Grigor Grigorov and today I would like to continue with my lectures featuring the positions with isolated pawn. In the previous lecture we have seen a very important attacking idea in such positions, the so-called rook lift along the third rank. We have seen how powerful this idea might be, and today I want to focus on another major attacking idea in positions with isolated pawn. So the idea consists of advancing the pawn. So mainly the advance d4-d5. When and why we try to advance the pawn? In general, in positions where you have more active pieces or you have lead in development, you're interested in opening the play by advancing the pawn. So this is something that is related to the general chess understanding. Of course, there are some cases in which the pawn is pretty vulnerable. For example, in different endgame positions, then we try to advance it in order to get rid of this weakness. But today, since we are dealing with attacking ideas, we will mainly feature positions in which we advance the pawn in order to create attacking opportunities. Once again, I repeat, you should advance the pawn when you have better pieces, more active pieces, or you have significant lead in the development. So, without wasting too much time in theoretical explanations, I would like to show a concrete example which is very instructive. So, now we will be examining the game Peter Vukic against Janusz Flesch. So, d4, d5, c4, d takes c4, queen's gambit accepted. This is an opening that often leads to positions with an isolated pawn. So knight f3, knight f6, e3, e6, bishop takes c4, c5, short castle. Here, by far, the main move is a6, which is very flexible. Black is planning to play b5 followed by bishop b7. In one of the previous lectures, I have already pointed out that black wants to provoke a4 when the knight is still on b8, because after knight c6, in many cases, black will be able to make use of the b4 square. In this game, however, black played the immediate c takes d4, thus releasing the tension in the center. But I think that this is quite premature, and the arising version of the isolated pawn is pretty much favorable for white, because he manages to develop his pieces in the optimal way. So e takes d4, knight c6, knight c3, bishop e7, and here I want to pay attention to one very little subtle move. This is the move a3, just taking the control of the b4 square. This is a very typical idea to kill the c6 knight, because now it turns out that there is no good square for the knight. For example, the typical maneuver knight b4, knight d5 is not possible, knight e7, knight d5 is not possible as well. And if the knight stays on c6, then this idea b6 and bishop b7 is not that effective, because the b7 bishop will be closed by the knight. That's why, if you remember, in my first lecture, in which I was speaking about positions in which we should play against the isolated pawn, very often in positions with a bishop on g5, black was trying to induce the exchange of the dark squared bishops by means of knight h5, and when white captures on e7, the c6 knight was going to e7. So for more information, just watch again the first lecture from the series. Great, so short castle. Now rook e1, a6, and here in this position black wants to play b5 and bishop b7. Another possible idea is of course b6 followed by bishop b7. This is the more conservative approach of handling the position. Here, after a6, white already starts thinking about attacking ideas. And I think that the move played in the game bishop d3 is the most precise continuation. Probably those of you who have watched my first lecture about the fight against the isolated pawn will know how to react with black against bishop g5. So in this position, okay, you can pause the video and think on your own, but generally speaking, black can play h6 with the idea of answering bishop h4 with knight h5. This is the idea. After bishop takes e7, then the c6 knight, which is quite a problematic piece, finds a perfect position on the e7 square. You can see in detail similar positions in my first video, I repeat. So, bishop d3. Here, what is the idea? Bishop c2 followed by queen d3. In general, this battery along the diagonal b1 h7 is quite a powerful attacking construction in positions with an isolated pawn. And in this regard, you see how useful the move a3 turns out to be. So b5, of course, the d4 pawn is untouchable. Let me demonstrate. If black takes the pawn, then white is winning the queen by means of discovered attack. So the queen is hanging now. So b5, bishop c2, bishop b7 was played, and here queen d3. White is already putting pressure on h7, and this last move comes with a masked threat. So first of all, I will demonstrate how black shouldn't play in such positions, because in the game he fall into the trap. And then we will go back to exactly this position, and we will examine black's optimal play in this position. So here black played rook c8, which is already a mistake. I would say decisive mistake. Here I highly recommend that you stop the video and think on your own, because this position is an excellent exercise. In many directions, actually, because this position is important for the general ideas in positions with isolated pawn, and also solving this position will improve your calculation. Okay, we continue. I hope you have taken enough time to consider different options. And here, due to the better activity of his pieces and the concrete tactical circumstances, white is just in time to advance the pawn. d5 is a very powerful option. White makes use of the fact that the h7 pawn is hanging in many variations. Now it's impossible to take with the knight. And the point of this advance is that after e takes d5, white plays bishop g5. Now, what is the threat, guys? Bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, queen h7 mate. And why we have played d5? Because in general, in this position, we can play bishop g5 without going for d5. What was the point? What was the reason? It is very simple. Here, if black decides to stop the mate by playing g6, then white is winning by means of rook takes e7, queen takes e7, knight d5, and the knight is dropping because of the pin. So you see that we play d5 in order to open the e file, so that the move rook takes e7 becomes possible. Now the only defense is knight e4, knight takes e4, d takes e4, queen e4, and now we can get an idea of how powerful weapon is advancing the pawn, because position becomes open, white's pieces are more active, and in open positions the activity of the pieces is the decisive factor. Now, okay, queen h7 is threatened, that's why g6 should be played. Rook d1, another very important move. So here it looks like that we can win a piece with bishop e7, but this is not correct, because at the end of the line the c2 bishop will be hanging. That's why the immediate bishop e7 would have been premature. So rook d1, queen c7. Once again, for the same reason, we don't take on e7, but we just develop the attack by directing all the pieces to the king side. So rook e8, bishop b3. In general, when black plays g6, the bishop has nothing to do on this diagonal. That's why white is transferring the bishop to this more important diagonal, a2 g8. So h5 was played, bishop takes e7, knight takes e7, knight e5, and you see that the black's king side is weakened, and there are many tactical threats. So the most obvious one is knight takes f7 in different versions. Also knight d7 is a threat. Let me just show some ideas. Knight d7 is a threat as well. Rook d7 is a possibility. Queen f6. So black can pretty much resign in this position, but he played rook d8, rook takes d8, queen d8, knight f7, and okay, after queen e7, the game was over. Very very instructive game, which shows the point behind advancing the isolated queen's pawn, because the position becomes open, and if you have lead in development or more active pieces, then you get a tremendous advantage. But now, as promised, I would like to get back and to this position in which black committed a decisive mistake, rook c8. Now the only move is g6. Instead of rook c8, he should play g6, immediately stopping the threat of d5. And now white can play bishop h6 in one go. That's why actually here, guys, we prefer to keep the c1 bishop flexible and play the obvious moves, bishop d3, bishop c2, queen d3, because these moves will be useful in any case. And if black plays g6, then the bishop can go to h6 at once. So after g6, bishop h6 at once. This is a very important idea. If we play bishop g5 immediately, this is premature. So let's get back. g6, bishop h6, rook e8, rook d1, of course, rook c8, and this is probably the optimal setup for black, and now white should create a plan. Of course, the position is quite playable, but in general I will try to explain how to handle such kind of positions. The immediate d5 is not a good option, because this advance will be followed by many exchanges, and in most of the cases the position will be drawish. Our development is not superior, and after d5 and possible piece exchanges, our pieces will not be so active. That's why we should try to execute d5 in better circumstances. In general, a very good idea is to transfer the bishop to this diagonal, a2 g8, because black has played g6 and our bishop has nothing to do on the diagonal b1 h7. Then the immediate d5 is possibly to be considered, but once again many exchanges might follow. That's why I like this idea. h4, h5. So the threat is hg6, hg6, and then possibly sacrifices on e6 because the g6 spot will be very vulnerable. And if the knight takes the h5 pawn, the knight goes far away from the center, and okay, now white can go for the advance d5 and open the position in a case where the piece activity will matter. So briefly, these were the main ideas behind the advanced d4 d5 in positions with an isolated pawn. I hope you enjoyed the lecture, and I will see you in the next videos. Thank you for your attention.